They attacked a human outpost. Earth silenced them by wiping out their home world. At least, that's what the galaxy whispered. But the truth was far more dangerous. Humanity never wanted the war. The outpost on Trident 4 was a deep space research hub, a quiet listening post run by 23 scientists and 2 security officers. No soldiers, no weapons. Just a cluster of minds trying to understand a mysterious dark energy pulse drifting across the Orion Spur. Then came the Karzul, an empire older than Earth's first radio signal, a species feared for their brutality. They claimed Trident 4 sat on sacred hunting grounds. No warning, no negotiation, just annihilation. The outpost was reduced to drifting metal and scattered bones in 11 seconds. Earth tried diplomacy. The Karzul responded by broadcasting the laughter of their war chief across every known channel, followed by the message, "Humans are prey. Run." But humanity didn't run. They met in the only place powerful enough to decide the fate of 2 civilizations, the Terran High Council. Their decision was not made out of revenge, but survival. Humanity had grown in silence, building weapons the galaxy had never seen, for a war they prayed would never come. The first strike didn't hit the Karzul home world. It hit their fleet, an entire armada of 3,000 ships shattered into dust by a single weapon the Council had classified as unthinkable until that day. The galaxy reeled. Whispers turned into fear. No one had ever destroyed a Karzul war armada, let alone in minutes. But Earth wasn't done. Commander Adrian Holt stepped forward, the man whose voice carried enough cold fire to freeze the spine of any species. He stood before the Galactic Assembly, looked the universe in the eye, and said, "We didn't start the war, but we will finish it." And with that statement, humanity launched Operation Black Sun, a strike at the Karzul homeworld itself. But the objective wasn't extermination, not at first. Black Sun was built around a weapon that could destabilize a planet's atmosphere, shutting down an entire world without firing a single lethal shot. But something went wrong. Or maybe it went exactly right. The Karzul homeworld reacted to the pulse in ways even Earth's supercomputers couldn't predict. Their skies ignited, oceans boiled, the planet cracked like a broken shield. In hours, the Karzul Empire lost 80% of its population. The galaxy called it genocide. Earth called it survival. But the truth? The truth was hidden, buried beneath classified files and encrypted logs, because the destruction of the Karzul homeworld wasn't the most terrifying part. The most terrifying part was what came after. For in the rubble of the Karzul world, human scouts found something that should not have existed, something that changed the entire narrative of the war. A chamber, a vault, a message. A recording made not by humans and not by the Karzul. A third species, long dead, long erased, warning of something older, hungrier, and infinitely more dangerous than either side. A predator that hunts civilizations the way storms hunt islands. And according to the recording, the Karzul didn't attack humans out of dominance. They attacked out of fear. Because the pulse from Trident 4, the signal that started everything, was not natural. It was a beacon, a tracker, a countdown. Commander Holt stood in the ruins of the enemy's home world, staring at the flickering message, feeling a chill colder than the void itself. Humanity hadn't caused a war. Humanity had triggered an awakening. And out there, somewhere beyond the mapped stars, something ancient had opened its eyes, sensing both species, marking them as next. Holt exhaled slowly, watching dust swirl around the ruined chamber. The war with the Karzul was over, but the real war, the one that had been waiting for eons, was only just beginning. He tapped his comm. "Get me Earth. This changes everything. And tell them," his voice tightened, "tell them the beacon wasn't meant for the Karzul." Static crackled, then a voice replied, "Then who was it meant for?" Holt stepped forward, studying the alien symbols glowing faintly on the wall, each one pulsing with a rhythm that felt almost like a heartbeat. It was meant for us, Holt whispered, feeling the weight of those words settle into the fractured air of the chamber. The symbols continued to pulse, slow, steady, deliberate, as if recognizing his presence, as if waiting. A low tremor rolled through the collapsed hall, dust drifting from the broken vaulted ceiling. Holt steadied himself, narrowing his eyes at the central pillar where the alien markings converged like veins feeding a heart. The pulse quickened, not randomly, intentionally, responding. He took a cautious step closer. "This thing is activating?" "No, Commander," replied Dr. Celine Ward, Earth's foremost xenocryptologist, her voice crackling through the comm channel. "It's communicating." The pulse brightened, shifting to a deep crimson, then fading to a cold, soft blue. Holt watched the sequence repeat. He felt it, not through sound, not through vibration, but in the way his chest tightened, in the way the hair on his arms rose. A message not meant to be heard, meant to be felt. "Decode it," Holt said. "We're trying," Celine replied, her tone jittering between awe and terror. "But, Commander, this isn't just language. It's a behavioral imprint. It's assessing you." "Assessing me for what?" Holt demanded. Celine hesitated. "Suitability." The pulse turned green, sharp, luminous, almost predatory. Holt's jaw locked. He felt the chamber tighten around him, as if the walls themselves were leaning in, observing him the same way a scientist studies a specimen. Then the recording shifted. A holographic figure flickered into existence, tall, elongated, with limbs like flowing metallic ribbons. Its face was smooth, blank, expressionless, yet somehow radiated intelligence. When it spoke, the chamber vibrated with a low, harmonic hum, a voice layered in a dozen frequencies. "Designated species, human. Beacon response detected. Ascension trial initiated." Holt felt his breath freeze. "Celine? What the hell is an ascension trial?" We don't know," she whispered back, horrified. "But based on the linguistic context, Commander, a trial implies evaluation." The hologram continued, its tone shifting as new symbols ignited across the walls. "Warning, prior trial subjects, designation Karzul, failed, catastrophic. Result, systemic purging." Holt's stomach twisted. So that was it. The Karzul hadn't become monsters by nature. They had been pushed, forced through some ancient gauntlet, and broken by it. The violence, the aggression, the territorial madness. It hadn't been madness at all. It had been fear. Fear of failing whatever ascension demanded. And humans had just stepped into the same labyrinth. The hologram's head tilted slightly, as if studying Holt's face directly. "Humanity stands at threshold." The lights intensified, casting the chamber in blinding radiance. Holt shielded his eyes. The voice deepened, resonating through bone and marrow. "Prepare yourselves. The Devourer awakens." The message ended with a seismic reverberation that shook the ruins down to their foundations. The hologram dissolved.
The chamber fell silent, but the pulse did not stop. It grew stronger, more urgent. Holt's breathing steadied, though his pulse raged. "Commander," he said, forcing authority into his voice, "how long until we crack this thing open?" "You don't understand," Celine replied, voice trembling. "The beacon recognizes you. It triggered the next phase. Whatever it's calling, it's already on its way." A cold streak ran down Holt's spine. On its way from where? He wasn't sure he wanted the answer. There was a moment of silence. Then the comm team at orbit relayed new telemetry, shaken, breathless, on the verge of panic. "Commander Holt, our deep space radars just picked up a subspace distortion, massive, bigger than anything we've ever detected. Vector suggests it's coming from outside our galactic rim." Holt swallowed. "How fast?" "Fast, sir. Faster than light curves should allow. Whatever it is, it's not constrained by physics as we understand them." Holt stared at the pillar again. The pulse now matched his heartbeat. Or maybe his heartbeat had fallen into sync with the pulse. He wasn't sure. He didn't like that distinction. "Pull the scout teams," he ordered. "Seal off this entire ruin. No one enters without my approval." "Commander," Celine protested, "this discovery could advance our entire understanding of—" "Or wipe us out, Doctor," Holt cut in. "We don't know what this thing considers a threat. We don't even know if it sees us as a species worth testing or a species worth erasing." He paused. "Until we know what's coming, Earth stays on high alert." Outside the collapsing chamber, the alien sky churned with ash and dying embers. The Karzul homeworld was a graveyard of an empire that had once believed itself invincible. Holt walked through the ruins with heavy, methodical steps, feeling the weight of every eye on him, millions of ghosts watching as humanity stepped into the same jaws that had closed around them. A distant boom echoed across the horizon. Not the sound of war, not the sound of collapse. A ripple, a distortion, as if the very fabric of space above the dead planet had begun to tremble. Holt's comm crackled. "Commander, we're detecting a breach forming above the exosphere." He looked up, and for the first time in his long, battle-hardened career, he felt something he had not felt even when facing the Karzul. Dread. Not of an enemy, not of a weapon, but of something older than fear itself. The clouds parted, not from wind, not from weather, but from pressure, something pushing through reality like a leviathan emerging from deep black water. Holt's second-in-command gasped, his voice barely a whisper. "Sir, what is that?" Holt narrowed his eyes at the widening tear in the sky, a fissure of shimmering void light splitting the heavens. "I don't know," he said softly. "But I think the trial has already begun." And above them, something vast moved behind the breach, its silhouette eclipsing what remained of the sun as the alien pulse in the chamber below quickened to a frantic, warning rhythm, as if screaming. The pulse inside the ruins throbbed faster, almost panicked now, as if the ancient mechanism understood what was coming better than any living mind could. Holt's eyes stayed fixed on the sky as the breach widened, stretching like a wound in the fabric of reality. Radiant darkness seeped through, light that wasn't light, shadow that wasn't shadow, something primal and wrong, something that set every instinct screaming. "Orbital command," Holt said quietly into his comm. "Give me size estimates on the object behind that breach." Static. A moment of stunned silence. Then a trembling reply. "Commander, we can't measure it." Holt tensed. "What do you mean you can't?" It's not conforming to dimensional mapping. Sir, every time we try to calculate scale, the readings change. It's like the thing is partially outside our universe." Holt lowered the comm. The soldiers around him looked skyward, their breaths shortening, their grips tightening around weapons they knew were useless. Humanity had built fleets capable of shattering moons, but this thing was not a moon. It wasn't even a ship. It was a presence, and it was pushing through. A bone-deep rumble shivered through the ground, lifting dust from the scorched soil. Holt felt it vibrate up his legs, into his ribs, like the drumbeat of some colossal heart. The breach pulsed once, twice. Everything stilled. Then an enormous tendril of shimmering void-light tore through the rift. It wasn't flesh or metal. It wasn't mechanical or biological. It was matter in a form that defied every known law, braided streams of energy twisting into something that looked almost serpentine. The soldiers stumbled backwards. One dropped to a knee, whispering, "God help us." Holt didn't look away. "Get me Celine." Her voice answered instantly, breathless, terrified. "I'm here, Commander." "What is this thing?" She hesitated. Too long. "Celine." "Commander, I think it's the Devourer." The word hung between them like a sentence. The species that built the trials, they weren't warning the Karzul. They were warning themselves. They built an entire system of tests to prepare civilizations for something they encountered, something that hunts ascending species. Holt stared upward. The breach groaned like a wounded sky as more tendrils unfolded, weaving through the atmosphere. The temperature dropped sharply. Frost formed on the broken stones beneath his boots. "So this thing," Holt said quietly, "is what killed them." "And thousands of others," Celine whispered. "Commander, the Ascension trial wasn't meant to elevate. It was meant to filter. A way to force species to evolve fast enough to survive this thing when it returned." Holt exhaled slowly. Now he understood. Humanity hadn't awakened an ancient guardian. They had triggered a predator. Another tremor shook the surface. Holt steadied himself as the ominous tendrils retracted and something far larger shifted behind the breach. Something with weight, intention, and hunger. A fragment of its form finally pushed through. Not a head, not a body, more like a massive fractal structure of impossible geometry. Shifting planes, rotating in dimensions humans couldn't perceive. Every rotation produced a low-frequency hum that made teeth ache and vision blur. Some soldiers clutched their helmets, crying out. One collapsed, convulsing. Holt barked orders. "Pull back. Don't look directly at it." But he knew it wouldn't matter. This wasn't a creature that killed with claws or plasma. It killed by existing. "Celine," Holt said, forcing calm, "tell me how long until it fully breaches." More static. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Minutes." Holt swore under his breath. Humanity had prepared for alien wars, cosmic threats, ancient empires, but nothing like this. "What about the beacon? Can we shut it down?" "We can't. The moment you entered that chamber, it paired with your biosignature. You triggered its final phase. That's why the Devourer is coming here." "Then how do we survive it?" He didn't expect an answer. He got one anyway. "Commander," Celine said, voice shifting from fear to a strange, trembling certainty. "The recordings, there's more. The ancient species didn't just warn about the Devourer. They said it could be repelled." Holt snapped to attention. "How?" "Not by force, not by technology. The Devourer feeds on stagnant civilizations, species that plateau, that stop evolving. The beacon was designed to catalyze rapid advancement, to force a species into a crisis intense enough to birth something new." "A weapon?" "No, an idea, a leap, an evolution of thought or unity or consciousness. Something unpredictable, something that only humans are uniquely good at." Holt looked at the breach again, the monstrous silhouette pressing closer with every passing second. So the trial isn't about fighting it, Holt realized. It's about becoming something it can't categorize. Exactly. The Karzul failed because they turned inward, became brutal, rigid, unchanging. The Devourer harvested them like overripe fruit. And humanity? Holt asked. Celine's voice lowered, filled with a quiet, fearful wonder. Humanity changes, fast, chaotically, unpredictably. That's why the beacon chose you. You fit the criteria, but only if you complete the trial. The ground lurched violently. A shockwave tore through the sky as the breach spasmed open another 100 meters. Holt felt heat and cold simultaneously, felt pressure crushing and expanding his chest at the same time. The world twisted. The Devourer was entering fully now. No turning back. Celine, Holt said, voice steady as the world cracked around him, you said the trial demands an evolution. Yes. Then tell me what I have to do. Her answer came through the static, halting, breathless. Commander, the trial requires humanity to make a choice, a single civilization-shaping choice, one that will define what we become next. Everything depends on the next move. Holt's eyes lifted to the sky. The breach glowed like a second sun. The Devourer's colossal form pushed halfway through, casting a shadow across the dead world so vast it swallowed mountains. What choice? Holt demanded. But the comm sputtered, drowned by a rising hum, a sound that vibrated through the air like the beginning of a cosmic heartbeat, a sound that meant the Devourer had fully noticed humanity. Holt clenched his fists, staring up at the impossible form descending towards the ruins. Celine, he shouted, what is the choice? But the answer vanished as the breach flared blinding white, and the real trial began.
The blinding white flare swallowed everything, sound, sight, gravity, even thought, leaving Holt suspended in a weightless void that felt too vast to comprehend. The world, the ruins, the breach, the atmosphere, all dissolved as if peeled away layer by layer. Holt tried to orient himself, but there was no direction here, no up, no down, only the presence. The Devourer. Not a creature of flesh or anger or purpose, a cosmic instinct, a hunger woven into the fabric of existence, older than galaxies, older than stars, a force that consumed stagnation the way fire consumes dry leaves. And now it had turned toward humanity. Commander Holt, a voice said, not through his comm, not through sound, but inside his mind, clear as a bell struck in a cathedral of darkness. Celine's voice, or something wearing her voice. The trial has begun. The choice must be made. Holt tried to speak, but the void swallowed his words. Instead, his thoughts answered. What choice? The darkness shimmered, rippled, and Holt suddenly stood on the bridge of a Terran capital ship, the Aegis Dawn. Except it wasn't real. The stars outside were hollow, too perfect, as if painted by a machine that had never seen the real sky. Then he heard it. Millions of voices echoing across the bridge, human voices, fearful, hopeful, angry, determined. A tidal wave of emotions. The Devourer wasn't testing him. It was testing humanity itself. Before him appeared two visions, each more vivid than reality. In the first, Earth united under a single banner. Humanity forged a weapon, an impossibly powerful construct born from the beacon's blueprint. A weapon that could slice through dimensions, severing the Devourer's connection to their universe. Victory through overwhelming force, survival by becoming the very thing other species feared. A Terran empire, unchallenged, unbreakable, ascendant. but the cost echoed through the vision like a funeral bell. Millions dead forging the path, freedom sacrificed for unity. Human diversity flattened into a rigid, militarized destiny. The galaxy trembling not because Earth saved it, but because Earth replaced its monsters with new ones. Holt felt his gut twist. This was the path the Karzul chose long ago, and it destroyed them. The second vision unfolded like dawn breaking over a shattered world. Humanity chose differently, refused to become a weapon, refused to harden into something predictable. Instead, they embraced their fractal nature, their chaos. Innovation exploding in 1,000 directions, art and science, instinct and logic, fear and courage, colliding, merging, mutating faster than any ancient species could comprehend. A civilization not united under one chain of command, but united by choice, by creativity, by the wild, ungovernable fire that always made humanity dangerous to anyone who tried to define them. In that path, the Devourer hesitated, not deterred by force but confused by unpredictability. It could not categorize humanity, could not read their trajectory, could not harvest what refused to follow a pattern. Humanity survived not by killing the Devourer, but by evolving beyond its hunger. Two futures, two destinies, and Holt stood at the fulcrum. "Choose," the voice whispered, "not Celine now, but something ancient and weary. Only one path ensures the survival of your species." Holt closed his eyes. He felt the weight of every human life behind him, past, present, future. He felt the fear of every soldier standing on alien soil, the hope of every child playing beneath Earth's blue sky, the defiance of every human who'd ever stood against impossible odds. Humanity's strength wasn't unity, it was unpredictability. It was chaos with purpose. It was the ability to break expectations, to reinvent itself when trapped, to become something new precisely when extinction loomed. Holt opened his eyes. We choose to remain human. The void shifted. The visions shattered like glass struck by a hammer. The Devourer surged forward, massive, endless, incomprehensible. But something changed in the air, something subtle, a new rhythm, a spark. The pulse from the ancient beacon flared from within Holt's chest, radiant, defiant, not fueled by fear, not by violence, by choice. A shockwave rippled outward, expanding into a sphere of shimmering light. The Devourer recoiled, not out of pain, but confusion. It twisted, the infinite geometry of its form spasming as if trying to comprehend an equation that refused to balance. Humanity had chosen a path the ancient species failed to imagine, a path that couldn't be quantified, conquered, or consumed. A second pulse detonated, expanding the sphere. The Devourer shrieked without sound, its form unraveling into spirals of dark luminescence. The rift flickered violently, struggling to remain open. A third pulse erupted, pure white, pure human will, and the Devourer collapsed backward, sucked through the rift like smoke dragged by a cosmic wind. The rift constricted, sealing with a thunderous snap that rippled through the void like the closing of a titanic door. Silence fell. The bridge dissolved, the void trembled, cracked, and Holt felt gravity return as he slammed back into his body on the ruins of the Karzul homeworld. He gasped, breath ragged, chest heaving. The sky above was whole, the breach was gone. Only drifting clouds remained, blissfully unaware of the catastrophe that nearly swallowed existence. "Commander Holt," Celine's voice whispered in his calm, real this time. "Are you alive?" Holt looked at the sky, at the stars, at the vastness that had almost become a grave. "Yes," he breathed. "We're alive." Soldiers around him slowly rose, trembling, stunned. The air smelled of burnt ozone and newborn rain. "What happened?" Celine asked. Holt wiped dust from his brow, feeling the faint echo of the beacon still pulsing somewhere deep within his mind. "We passed," he said. He looked out over the ruins of the fallen empire, the silent monuments of a species that had chosen the wrong destiny. "And now," he whispered, "humanity's real journey begins. Because for the first time in cosmic history, a species had survived the Devourer's trial without becoming a monster. They had survived by remaining human. And the universe would never be the same again."